Joe Mullings from 160 Studios in Delray Beach. And today I've got a treat. We've got the Mayo Clinic online, Dr. Michael Kendrick and Dr. Janani Reisenauer. So thank you both for joining us from Rochester.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kendrick, if you can just bring us in and explain to us a little bit about the Beahrs Summit and your role at Mayo, probably starting there would be appropriate first, and then Dr. Reisenauer, I'd like you to follow.
You're very happy to. So I'm the chair of the Department of Surgery, which is a large department of 12 different specialties at Mayo Clinic, over 100 surgeons. The Beahrs Summit is in the honor of Ollie Beahrs, one of our historic, very famous surgeons. And it has been a way to gather surgeons together to discuss different areas of the practice. And in the past few years, we have really refocused this on specifically innovation in surgery, trying to transform our practice for the benefit of patient care, moving things forward. And so the entitled focus of the Beahrs Summit is to really bring together industry and clinicians to work together to transform the care of our patients.
Dr. Reisenauer.
So my name is Janani Reisenauer. I'm the chair of innovation within the Department of Surgery at Mayo Clinic. And as Dr. Kendrick said, the purpose of the Beahrs Summit is to really invite leaders in medtech to meet alongside Mayo surgeons for a day to really ideate and collaborate together. We recognize that we're on the precipice of a big change in healthcare. There's a technological revolution, so to speak, and Mayo Clinic has always been a leader in healthcare innovation. And we recognize that if we want to continue that reputation, it involves collaborative partnerships with industry. And so this is one day where we open the doors to industry that are innovating in the Department of Surgery, and we bring our physician leaders together for really insightful conversations and opportunities.
Janani, how do the Mayo surgeons and clinicians think about innovation? As you pointed out, we're in a period of time right now through healthcare medicine that perhaps we've never seen before, between AI, digital, sites of care changing, not just the hospital, but home and ASCs. How do you run that through your innovation prism that determines prioritization from your perspective?
That's a really good question. I think data and AI are obviously buzzwords that are out there everywhere right now, and everybody's thinking about how can they attach that label to make their toy more shiny. But I think as surgeons, we really recognize that that is a data-driven way to deliver faster, better, safer, more efficient care, and applied to a true unmet need as opposed to just a technology that's out there. I think that's where those clinicians come in and really identify, yes, this has data and AI attached to it, but how is it really going to impact the patient and translate and transform care? And that clinical need perspective, I think, is what the surgeons are really interested and excited about.
Dr. Kendrick, when you think about that innovation, and I know in my conversations as being part of this Beahrs Summit and the privilege to be able to start thinking about what technologies do we bring in, when do we bring them in, can you explain the initiative and the intention of the initiative on the development of IP, the sharing of IP, and how Mayo managed that and leads that?
Yeah, so I think as clinicians, we see the technology evolving very rapidly around us, and so we have an idea of where that would best fit in our practice. As I mentioned, we're 12 different subspecialties of surgery, and so even within those subspecialties are very different focus by each specialty. And so we have really focused each group in determining what they would want to advance their practice, whether that's AI, AR, VR, device development, or even translational medicine. And so we have allowed them to focus on those things as specialties. And then it rolls up to Janani, Dr. Reisenauer, and I to help prioritize those and really select the companies that would fit those. So as opposed to just opening up to anyone and turning it into a very big, wide net, we have intentionally focused it to where it's really going to meet our needs, but also to be very respectful of the med tech companies and industry, to say, if we've invited you here, we're very interested in what you have to offer, and we have a path or an idea of how we would use that to transform medicine.
And this, one of the things I really am jazzed about with the Beahrs Summit, as with most of the Mayo events, is it's invite only. And I think that's important because certainly every event in medtech is important. It can get a little sort of diluted between service providers there and others who are important to the medtech ecosystem, but you've done a really intentional thing by making it invite only. So that becomes this real curated experience for that day between the Mayo clinicians and industry. So you must have thought really deeply about that. Janani, I'll start with you on that. What was the intention behind that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it takes a lot to pull the clinicians out of clinical practice for one day and focus on innovation as opposed to focusing on patient care. It also takes a lot to ask medtech leaders to take busy time out of their circuit to come to Mayo Clinic. So we want both sides of the coin to feel value in their time and their presence here. And so the purpose and the intention behind that invite only is that the companies that we invite to come have been, to some degree, we've met with them, we understand what they're asking for, we've met with our practice leaders, and there's an opportunity there and an interest there on both sides to really turn the meeting into a purposeful, action-oriented meeting. And we felt like that would provide more action items and progress as opposed to just keeping the doors wide open and inviting anybody and everybody. We really do want the people that take the time and the energy to attend to feel like they're leaving with purpose and with action items moving forward. And so that was the reason to do that.
One of the powerful, I think, characteristics of Mayo is the venture arm that continues to emerge, that supports very important technologies in the healthcare system. Dr. Kendrick, can you just give an overview of that? Because I don't think many people are aware of the venture arm of Mayo.
Yeah, the venture arm at Mayo is very robust and has been present for decades. But I would say in the past several years has really expanded significantly in focus. And really, that's one of the reasons why this Beahrs Summit is so successful is its timing. So we started this at a time when the technological revolution was kicking off, but also within Mayo, our own processes, including the venture arm, that's there to help actually invest in some of these programs that we're trying to initiate with industry and even new company development, but also supporting existing companies. And that's been really good. We work very closely with them almost on a daily basis and prioritize. And that's, again, back to your point of inviting people. The groups that we invite to come are really ones, as Dr. Reisenauer mentioned, that we've kind of vetted as high potential to meet our needs, and then even to have our venture arm be involved in that.
Janani, I'm privileged to be part of the sort of team that is identifying the strategics to come in, as well as some of the emerging tech companies. This is only the third Beahrs we've put on, and the critical mass that you're gaining is just really impressive. We've only got a limited number of seats coming up for the fall summit. Who are some of the strategics that are there, and why should an emerging tech company, as well as a strategic, want to get on that docket if they aren't there already?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. And thanks again for your wisdom and your participation in the event. All the major strategics that are involved in surgical innovation are typically present and have been since its inception. So we thank them for their support. In particular, Intuitive, Medtronic, J&J, the imaging companies, Olympus, Stryker, to name a few, have all been in attendance in previous years and have supported the event in one way, shape, or another. We continue to thank them for their support. And I would think that the interest for them to come is to not only see what our surgeons are doing, because this is not only an opportunity to partner with industry in terms of the technology that they bring in, but also an opportunity to license out in-house technology that we're working on and we're developing as well, and to foster those relationships with our providers. Strategics are always coming out with new iterations of devices and need people to work with to make that better. But from a strategic standpoint, it's also great to come and see what other new technologies are emerging and who's going to be there and who does the Mayo Clinic find value in meeting with and speaking to. And from an emerging technologies startups perspective, there will be venture capitalists in attendance. There are members of the FDA that are present. Thanks to Dr. Doug Kelly, who's been a part of the event and supported the event since its beginning. There's also strategics there that are in attendance as well. So it's not just an opportunity to meet with Mayo Clinic surgeons, but also an opportunity to further that ecosystem and meet with each other.
And you've been intentional, and the Mayo team's been very intentional of creating these hyper-curated experiences for people. For the strategics especially, there's that opportunity for a very reasonable sponsorship relationship with Mayo to get these amazingly curated experience with Mayo itself, with the emerging tech companies, and then by invite only. So they're not going to be overwhelmed with everybody knocking on their door. I think that's important to call out on this, and you've been very deliberate, and the Mayo team's been very deliberate in being selective there.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. We do have select sponsorship packages available this year where if there is a strategic that wants to come and have a meaningful experience beyond just the fantastic content that's built into the program, they can certainly sponsor the event. That sponsorship will be widely and broadly recognized both before, during, and after the event. But as part of that, they get a curated itinerary and agenda. They get access to the other attendees before all the other attendees do, and really have a more meaningful curated experience where they can have confidential meetings and reserved space to do so, but also opportunities to visit more closely with Mayo Clinic KOLs as well as other individuals that'll be at the meeting.
Dr. Kendrick, is there a success story that would be illustrative of what this Beahrs Summit intentions are, and maybe some outcomes that you could share with our audience?
There are several, and I think many of those involve Dr. Reisenauer. So I'm gonna punt that one to her and let her share some of the exciting things that we've done.
I would say one is the scalability. So at first we invited mostly national groups and national strategics. Last year we had a very strong international presence. We had people come from Gulf, from Korea and China, and some of the Baltic states as well. And that continues to grow to where now each one of those companies would like other companies within their portfolio to potentially attend as well. So just from the scalability and the reach, the event has significantly grown, and I would label that a success. I think in terms of collaborative opportunities that have come out, last year we had an entire session focused on deals that were successful from the year prior. And so there were 4 companies that co-presented alongside Mayo surgeons on stage last year, where there was an opportunity to not only conduct sponsored research, but also a co-development opportunity where the Mayo Clinic surgeon was facilitating some of the development of that technology. And we highlighted 4 of those use cases last year. This year, we're really lucky to have a panel on stage where our ventures team will sit alongside 3 different companies, each of one of which has a slightly unique twist to it and a slightly unique aspect of that deal. The panel is called Anatomy of a Deal, and we'll go through the specifics of how Mayo Clinic Ventures and Mayo Clinic surgeons orchestrated a very unique deal for each of those companies who are at various stages of development and growth and really executed on some very promising technology.
Yeah, talking about getting involved, front of the line, platinum brand in healthcare alongside Mayo, and then bringing in some of the technologies, that's a rare opportunity. And then finally, Dr. Kendrick, what do you envision for Beahrs? We're in our 3rd year and we're already growing with tremendous momentum. What do you hope this Beahrs Summit to be 5, 7, 10 years out from now when we look back just 3 years in?
This is a host of 100 surgeons that are engaged and given the time to make this important and to make it successful with those who attend. And I think that's important. And that is what I'm very proud of. We've more than quadrupled the number of surgeons involved significantly with industry and development. And I think that is what we want to see continue to grow. So 5 years from now, I'm sure it will be much bigger than it is today, but I hope we're able to continue to stay focused and have it be very high yield and very successful for those who participate. That would be our goal.
You casually say surgeons. I think it's fair to say Mayo surgeons, which I think are, the elite. I'll say it, you might not have to. So they're not just surgeons, they're Mayo surgeons, number one. Second is that yield, I think, is really important, and my interactions with the Mayo team to date have always made sure that we're yielding the highest output possible on behalf of the patients and the technologies out there. So I'm very appreciative of that, and I'm thankful for both of you on behalf of the industry for shining a light on a really important initiative. Even though we're in our early years, 3 years in, I think this continues to move to the front of the line as to adding value to the industry. So, Janani, Michael, thank you very much for taking the time and sharing the Beahrs Summit with the audience.
Joe, it's such a pleasure. Thanks for your time, not only today, but all the effort and participation that's gone into planning and execution, and your role has been instrumental. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm Joe Mullings from 160 Studios. Be well.